I do want to start by saying that I was not on board the CBD bandwagon when marijuana was legalized in Washington State or anywhere else. I was really, really concerned when all this really started happening. I actually ended up trying CBD for myself on my dogs. Gosh, I guess it's been about 5 years now when my Shiba Inu was diagnosed with cancer because he was having appetite issues. And at the very bare bones of it, what do we know about stoners?
Munchies.
They get the munchies, right? And poor Max didn't want to eat, and so he would get sicker. So he didn't want to eat, so he would get sicker, and he was losing all of his energy, and his prognosis was not good because he couldn't get any nutrition in him. So I thought, well, worst case scenario, let's give him some CBD and see if he gets the munchies, right? Because if he can eat, then I think that we can deal with some other things. So not only did it work for that, but it also worked for nausea a lot. So he stopped throwing up, he started eating, he regained some of his strength, and then we were able to supplement beyond that and get him kind of over that peak. Max ended up living 5 years. After his initial cancer diagnosis, he lived 2 years past his terminal diagnosis. And I think a lot of that has to do with not just the CBD and what it did for inflammation, but the other things that we did as well. But I do credit a lot of his extra time to how well we were able to manage things by mitigating some of those underlying symptoms. I am one of the few people, I think, that are pro CBD that also really understands and really commits to its limitations. You'll find a lot of people with CBD say that it'll shrink tumors and it'll cure cancer and it'll probably not do any of those things. What it does do really well is help with a lot of underlying symptoms so that you can battle the rest of it with nutrition and supplements and things to that effect. We've probably all met somebody who's gone through chemo and had the benefits of using a CBD product for nausea. And there are things that it does work really, really well for. So the big difference between CBD for pets and CBD for people is the THC aspect of it, right? So THC is the fun part of pot, you know, hey, let's all go get stoned, woo, okay. That's the fun part. We don't use that on dogs. We don't use that on dogs at all because THC is toxic to dogs. There is a legal allowable maximum of THC that can be in a pet safe CBD product, and that's 0.3%. There is absolutely no benefit to that, and it is not worth the risk. So the way CBDs work is we all have endocannabinoid receptors in our body. They basically encompass the cell, and they absorb cannabinoids. We actually produce some small amounts of cannabinoids ourselves, but obviously the receptors themselves are named for the plant, for the cannabinoids in pot. We named the cellular version for them because cannabinoids are the key to the endocannabinoids on our cells. So what that means is our body can absorb those cannabinoids and use them very, very well. It helps to limit inflammation. It helps to quell anxiety. It helps for all of those things because our body, basically what it does is when that key goes into the lock, it shuts the cell down so they can't metastasize, they can't latch onto other portions of the body that may experience inflammatory responses. So that's why they work that way. Pets have more than 10 times the endocannabinoid receptors in their brain than humans do. And that is why THC is so risky to dogs. Because if you lock up too much of that, you'll start having neurologic symptoms. And that is why it is exceptionally important to know the brands that you're using. When you go to a pot store for humans, they may be selling pet safe products, but it's still going to probably be at that 0.3 mark. And that's not a risk that I think is worth taking, especially when there are products on the market that have 0. So that's the big difference. So no, you can't hotbox your car and have your dog get benefits from that. All you're going to do is make them stupid, or in some dogs' cases, right? So So I have seen personal benefits for nausea and appetite. I've also seen personal benefits for anxiety on 2 of my dogs. I don't know if any of you remember Presley, my Shih Tzu. He passed away 3 years ago now, but he was born with a hole in his heart. So it was really, really important to keep his stress levels down so that we didn't have heart attacks. That would be terrible. And that's like right up against our house. There's flames and fire trucks and hoses and like all kinds of terrifying things. And it made it so that Presley refused to go into our bedroom. Flat refused. It was the scariest end of the house. It was not going to happen. And Max was already on CBDs for his nausea and his appetite, so I thought, let's try it. Man, CBD worked great on Presley. 30 minutes later, he was like, fine, screw it, I'm gonna take a nap, we're good. I also use it for this guy right here. He is not nearly as reliable on CBD as Presley was. It takes a much larger dose for Rue, but he has a lot stronger anxiety than Presley ever did. The reality with CBD is your mileage may vary. Some dogs can take a really small dose infrequently. Some dogs need a larger dose less regularly. But the best thing about CBD is you can't overdose it, and it has 0 contraindications. It has a 6-hour half-life, which means it's completely out of their system in 12 hours. So even if you had an adverse reaction to it, in 12 hours it's completely out of their system, and they're gonna have 0 symptoms from the CBD itself at that point. He got a double dose this morning because I was worried this would be stressful for him. So as you can see, that might have been a little much. But I'd rather have this than him like running around freaking out. So I would also like to tell you this really terrifying story about unintentionally, potentially overdosing your dog. So Little over there, my guy, he's all of 10 pounds. His very first thunderstorm was the most terrifying thing that ever happened. And so I was like, well, I'll give him a double dose of CBD, take him down a notch, we'll be fine. So a 10-pound dog, a double dose is a half of a chewable for these ones that we have at home. And I dropped the container. And that guy wolfed down 7 whole chewables before I could get the container off the ground. And I thought, well, this is gonna be a great test to see if you can overdose a dog. That's 28 times his normal dose of holy crap, this is gonna be bad. Yeah, it took about 30 minutes. He went to the corner, he fell asleep, and he slept through the entire storm on his back. No big deal, no harm, no foul. Slept really nice that night, no accidents, didn't get me up in the middle of the night to go to the bathroom. These were all great things. No ill effects, everything was fine. There was a little panic on Mom's part, but trusting my instincts and my education, I knew it would be fine, and it really was. So that's what's really cool about CBD. You can use it daily, like I do with him. You can use it situationally, like I do with him. We've had benefits with seizure dogs. So seizure, anxiety, cancer, joint health, generalized pain. It really does work in those situations, but it is not a cure by any means. I am a huge proponent of being proactive with things, trying to prevent things from happening. But CBD is one of those things where I find that it's more about mitigating the symptoms. Normally I'm a big believer in solving the problem, but at some point you have to realize that there's no ultimate solution, and the best we can do is give our pets, our children, some relief. And that's what I find this really works for. When we started in the CBD adventure 5 years ago, we started with capsules. Literally what they had done is they had dried the hemp plant naturally and put it in little capsules, and we were opening them up and putting them on food. And then it progressed from there, and they were making tinctures, which was really nice because they're a little more concentrated. You can dose them a bunch of different ways. And then they came out with treats that have been exposed to heat, so I don't find that they're as effective. And now we have things like peanut butter and honey, and you can dose CBD in a lot of different ways. Now, Super Zoo is a trade show that I go to every year in Las Vegas, and it's like all of the different pet companies, and they all want to shove their stuff down your throat, and they want you to buy their things, and everybody's the best at everything, you know? 57 CBD companies this year. if that gives you an idea how prevalent this has become and how much research there is involved to find a company that you trust, 57 companies, and random people walking around the aisles being like, I don't have a booth, but check out my CBD. Literally, that was a thing. So in 5 years, I've done a ton of research. I've researched a lot of companies, and I have decided on the 2 that we carry right now, Super Snouts and Colorado Hemp Honey. And I'll kind of tell you why. I made some notes because sometimes I forget. Once you read 7,000 pages of information, you get a little confused. So, Super Snouts, not only do they use organic farming processes, but they say they use organic farming processes. So here's the thing. You can't claim your CBD is organic because the FDA regulates organic standings and certification, and the FDA doesn't acknowledge CBD or hemp at all, right? So if you're going to stand up here and say, well, our product is all organic, you're already showing lack of transparency, which is exceptionally important to me. So Super Snout says we use all organic farming methods, not certified organic, just so you know. And I think that that's really telling. That's the first step of what made me really like this company. Because it's really easy to say, it's our organic. Well, technically it's a plant, so they're all organic.
Mm-hmm.
Their formulations, they have a pharmaceutical engineer who has a PhD and a veterinarian on staff. I think those are really important things. They use a chromatographic process to remove the remainder of their THC. So on their farms, they start with modified crops that produce a very low level of THC to begin with. So it's already safe for pets at that 0.3 level that we discussed earlier, just by itself before it's ever been processed. But what they have done, in addition to that, is they're using an alcohol-based chromatographic, that's the hardest word to say ever, process. What that means is they're using basically an alcoholic distillery process to remove the remainder of the THC without ever heating the product or degrading the CBDs in it, which is really cool. Plus, it's alcohol-based, plant-based alcohol, so it's a natural process. Every bottle, jar, sample has this little QR code. You can scan that and it will give you the purity and safety test on that exact batch of product from their website. It will give you the breakdown, it will show you everything that's in it and everything that isn't in it. They not only do their own internal testing, but everything is third-party verified before it leaves. Again, these are really important safety things for me. But you can be guaranteed that this is a chemical-free, this is a completely chemical-free CBD product for your pets. And then the last thing that they have done, and this is thanks to their pharmaceutical engineer, they have established, let's see if I can get the term correct. Hold on. Nano-sized microemulsion. You like that? That is why I have to read it. So CBD by nature is fat soluble. What that means is if you feed it to your dogs while they've already got food in their system, it has to go through the entire digestive tract and get absorbed through the body with the food, and it's not nearly as bioavailable because it's getting lost in all the other fats that the body is breaking down. This pharmaceutical engineer has established a microencapsulation that allows them to be water soluble. So you can give it with food, you can give it with treats, you can give it by itself, it doesn't matter, because the body is going to get 4 to 5 times more bioavailability in the nano microemulsion crap than it is with your just basic CBD. So you're getting a lot more effective product, period. That's it. These come in an oil, which is a coconut oil base. I still recommend giving any oil, despite its microemulsion technology, at least 1 to 2 hours outside of food for it to have its full efficacy. But the treats, the capsules, the peanut butter now, which you just came out with, which is really cool, all of those can be given with food and the body can use them. So all of those things are really cool. Plus, with it being 4 to 5 times more bioavailable, you are going to get a lot more pure product than if you're going and buying something else. you may have to use literally 2 to 3 times more. So while this might be a little more expensive, I feel like it's worth it. Yeah, James?
Is that peanut butter human grade?
I cannot speak to that because if I sell human grade CBD products, I need a license. Okay.
That's fair.
I will say this. I have consumed more than one of the CBD products in my store, period. And I have not died yet. So whatever you want to take from that is that. The peanut butter doesn't taste good. I mean,
Peanut butter really tastes like peanut butter?
it's I don't know, whatever. It's not the right texture. Peanut butter is a texture thing. Okay, so I also want to touch on seizures a little bit. You know, seizures are a totally different animal than your average CBD use, period. But I will say we've been exceptionally successful using CBD to treat seizures in dogs. Now, I'm not a veterinarian, and I'm always going to tell you, go to your vet, get medical advice from them. But I will tell you that I have a multitude of dogs who hugely benefit from CBD products for their seizure dogs. There is CBD isolate. You'll see that it's in a blue bottle. The isolate is always good for seizure dogs to keep on hand because if they are having a seizure, you can dose them during the seizure and it will, in the experience of my clients, truncate the seizure itself, the actual episode. But a lot of my seizure dogs also take CBD daily, and it definitely minimizes in their experience. You like all my liability waivers there? It lessens the frequency of those seizures, and I've seen it time and time again. I have clients who've completely eliminated their phenobarbital. We've had clients minimize their dose, which anytime that you can minimize something like phenobarbital, which has such strong side effects, it is worth it. But we do very, very well with it. Like I said, I've used it for anxiety. I also find the isolate works better for Rue's anxiety. It didn't matter for Little, or for Presley, I mean, but with Rue, the isolate was much, much better for him, for his anxiety. And when it comes down to isolates versus the CBD is full spectrum. It's every aspect of the plant combined into the oil. An isolate is just the cannabinoids, so there's no terpenes, there's none of those other components that also have benefits. But the studies show that sometimes the isolates work better for certain animals than the full potency, the full spectrum. So I think full spectrum is ideal for dogs with cancer because the terpenes have been shown to slow metastasization. That's another hard word. But again, not all animals are created equal. Some need a small dose, some need a larger dose, but the good news is you can't overdo it, you can't underdo it, and I just really think it's been such a lifesaver for so many people that, yeah, Phyllis?
Where's this company come from? Where's it located?
So Super Snouts is actually located in Washington State. Their farms are in Colorado, and their isolates come from Kentucky because it's a different plant, basically. So they don't want, because plants naturally will crossbreed, so they want them isolated from each other. One thing I do want to touch on is, for a brief minute, all CBD products in the pet industry, or I shouldn't say all, but a lot of them, switched from calling their products CBD to calling their products phyto-based, P-H-Y-T-O. So CBD is an acronym for cannabinoids. The long and actual word for cannabinoids is phytocannabinoids. And what happened is Big Pharma came in and trademarked the term CBD. Yeah,
Of course.
that happened. So all the little guys were like, well, we don't want to get sued by Big Pharma. That sounds terrifying. So we'll just call ourselves Phyto. So we came out with Phyto 90 and Phyto 150, and that's your strength, milligrams per dose. But then, late in 2018, the Farm Bill came through and said, no, sorry, Big Pharma, you can't take that. No, sorry, go away. So now we're all transitioning back to CBD. So, Super Snouts has decided to continue to call themselves Fido until the whole bill has passed and gone through all of its levels of everything. But it's just one of those ridiculous things that added yet another layer of confusion to a kind of already confusing topic. So I just kind of wanted to touch on it. So another reason I chose Super Snouts, besides the organic farming practices and the transparency and the 100 other things, is they have exceptional research on their website. They have a whole resource guide on their website that breaks down everything from studies by veterinarians regarding THC to exactly what their chromatography process is. So if you want to get deep into the science of it, it is right there and available to you. And that's the same place where you can go and scan your QR code to get the exact testing batches on your product themselves. I just really think that that's cool. Transparency is like the biggest, most important thing of who we are as a business, and we like to couple with other businesses that are as concerned. Oh, and if anybody is curious, sativa blend, because somebody asked me that one time, apparently they're all derived from the sativa strain of marijuana plants. Because there's also indica. I don't know. Not my jam. I mean, unless it's in tea, then it's fine.